Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning back into Marathon Money Inside the Ticker. And you already know, for all the people that was asking me in my group chat, when I put this in there, ZSpace, I finally was able to get Paul on the show. And I know a lot of people is excited. I'm excited. I love this company. They're in the race with the AI, augmented reality. But I want Paul to really get on this and describe what his company is about as the first interview.
Thank you, Kenny. Really appreciate being part of your show here. I want to talk a little bit about the vision of ZSpace. And it's really about empowering learners with AI, AR experiences to reach their full potential. In the development of the company, and I've been with the company since inception, which is 19 years, we were first of all very deep in R&D, building what is very, very unique. Most people have never heard of ZSpace. If you go look at videos on our website, zspace.com, you'll see it's this very unique augmented reality experiences that jump out of a screen in front of you that you can interact with a very intuitive stylus. And it gives you a really unique perspective. About 10 years ago, we got started into the education market. And again, people in the education market know who ZSpace is. And the value at the time was getting students and kids engaged in learning and learning and excited about learning in specific topics. By the way, biology was a big one when we first started, and getting girls excited about biology. So as opposed to dissecting a dead frog, you could do this virtually. And that was the initial premonition. By the way, if I fast forward 10 plus years, we are in over 3,500 of the 13,000 US public school districts in the United States. We've gone public. We have two pieces to our business that have really grown. One is that K-12 market, and we're predominantly in kind of grades 3 up to grade 12 with very STEM, science, technology, engineering, math-like focused applications. We also got into the career and technical education market, which is growing very quickly, and there's a lot of funding that has been set aside for that, which is bipartisan. So think of career and technical education as old school trades, welding, automotive, HVAC. Those are a lot of those skilled trades today are very hard to find, and we need more of them. But there's also a whole series of new applications, things like advanced manufacturing, AI, robotics, healthcare is another big area where we need more people in that specific area. Fast forward to today, we actually have a lot of research that has been done that proves the efficacy of ZSpace. I'm going to point to one. It's a study that was done by Texas Tech. We didn't pay for it. It was focused on middle schools and science and math. And on average, grade scores went up 16%. Utilizing ZSpace. And the reason why is people are learning by doing. They retain the information better and through the experiences. And that's really what we've built. So again, very unique. You can look at it on the website. The videos don't do it justice. And again, I know we're not a household name. We do have a brand in education. About 90% of our business is here in the US. As I mentioned, we're in over 3,500 of the US public school districts. We also are more and more moving into private and charter schools, partly with the administration's changes in the education business, if you will. But very, very bullish on our prospects going forward here.
Now, I do like the space that you're in with the K through 12, the school, the education. I like that because stuff like that. Now, I'm thinking like an investor. Anybody who's starting at, those kind of levels, young, your brand is going to be big in 10 years because they're going to recognize ZSpace and it's going to be a recognizable face just in 10 years. Because as kids grow older, they're going to say, oh, yeah, I use ZSpace, da, 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 da. That's how I see things. Number two, I noticed that you guys switched over from really like hardware to like software licensing, like 10% of your in the quarter one, which is really good in my opinion. Can you elaborate? Are you guys going to start focusing more on that with the software licensing to get more sales?
Yeah, great question. And we have an earnings release in about 30 days, and you'll see more of that. In our initial IPO, and we went public December 6th last year, 2024, the initial focus and use of proceeds was on three items. One was continuing to grow in the US. Second was software expansion, and I'm going to talk specifically about that to your questions. And the third one is international expansion. We haven't done the international expansion to the extent we wanted, although we dropped a press release today. We actually have closed some business and are being implemented in, it's actually the largest private school system within the world. It's called GEMS, headquartered in the Middle East, in Dubai. They have schools in Europe. They have schools in India. But on the software side specifically, we acquired a couple companies early this year. One of them was more of a bolt-on from the software side of it, obviously gives us more margin. And the other one was a group that has helped us build out and is helping us build out and own and control more of the software. The hardware of ZSpace, and if you go to our website, you'll see it. It's a laptop. It is the enabler. It is all about the software content. By the way, Q3 of last year, we had a positive EBITDA quarter. And that was as the software mix shifted even more. Likewise, Q1, Q2 of this year, more of it. Stay tuned. But that's something that we're very, very focused on. And you'll see margins continue to improve because there's additional software, additional content. One other comment, and this goes to the market, and it goes a little bit to the career and technical education market. We built an application that we released about a month ago called Career Explorer. It's actually being used in middle schools and high schools and some community colleges that allows students to go look at different careers. Could be in healthcare, could be a radiologist, could be a surgeon, could be in a skilled trade, could be welding, could be carpentry. And we released that. It's gotten really, really good pickup. And we're going to continue to develop that more and more because career exploration is a really big, a big opportunity and a big area. Goes along typically with what people call workforce development, which moves more into the adults, including starting typically in grades 5 and 6. But back to your question, Kenny, no question, software is a major push for us. And we want to own and control more of that software, which means higher margins, obviously getting to profitability.
Yeah, I really like that shift, and I just want to commend you for that because that is going to be a moneymaker because it's a reoccurring revenue. But also, I see that not only that you go back to when you said about the acquisitions, Blockade.
Yep.
Yeah, and then 3D design modeling and Second Avenue Learning. I like companies that are me personally are acquiring other companies that have like software IP. It gives you more range, more clientele to touch. But the real question I want to ask is that something that you guys are always going to be on the lookout for? And the part two of that question, what is your criteria of picking those two acquisitions?
Yeah. So by the way, we have a number of companies that we are, I'll say, in constant discussion with. Some of them are existing third-party developers where we resell their software. Those ones are kind of no-brainers because we have a margin pickup. Other ones are out in different market areas. The software acquisitions over the coming quarters is going to continue to be a major focus for us. And even though we sell ZSpace as a solution, and by the way we would sell it as an example is in a classroom. Say there's 20 students in a classroom. You would have 20 of our laptops. We have two different brands of laptop. One is branded Inspire. The other one is branded Imagine. And both of them have a very similar experience, although one is targeted more towards the lower end elementary schools. The other one is targeted more high end. And our content is tailored for both of those. So 20 laptops with bundles of content, whether it's specifically in the science area, math, chemistry, physics within the K-12 domain, or could be in these other areas within career and technical education. I'm going to talk about 3 areas that are very strong focuses. One is health, and healthcare as a career pathway is a major, major focus. And we've been talking to a number of different nursing schools. I was just talking to a superintendent yesterday who's putting in a workforce development program specifically focused on nursing, and they're bringing ZSpace into their classrooms. The second one is advanced manufacturing, and that includes a whole subset of applications, including advanced pneumatics, advanced robotics. And the third one is in what I'll call transportation. And transportation is a very broad category, including automotive. And you think of EV and hybrid and combustion engines, as well as things like diesel. So those are 3 major areas we're focused on within the career and technical education side of things. And we're building out more and more software content and what we call experiences in ZSpace for people to learn. But to your question, the software piece of it really is key. And I always say to people, as much as sometimes they look at us and they think of us as a hardware company, it's really the software, which is super critical. And again, we sell it as a solution today. There's a little bit of professional development, AKA training, that goes along with it, but it's very intuitive to use, and people and kids pick this up super quick.
So, when I look at your company, I see that you guys are positioning yourself in education really well. But education is not just K-12, enterprise education is going to be huge. Definitely companies that have a lot of hands-on work, like a factory, or companies that building cars and training them instead of having them be trained on the line. They can train in virtual reality. I feel like you guys have a wide range of different education tools to really get to the corporate market and enterprise. Is that something you guys are looking at?
Absolutely. When you think about additional markets we could go into, and again, Kenny, the content or the software that goes along with it is absolutely key. We have, and we're talking to a couple different strategic partners right now about go-to-market partnerships. And by the way, you could think of many different markets, whether it be corporate training, I'll call it corporate training, which is more enterprise, and think of markets like MRO, the maintenance repair operations. You could think of aerospace, you could think of different areas within it. We worked with someone else in the biotech industry where we actually worked with them to design a specific experience for about really having people learn specifically about one segment within the biotech industry. For us, the reason we selected the education market really as our first market, you could call it the corporate training market as the broader market, but within the education vertical, it was really to start to build up the business. And for us, it's really, and by the way, other areas that are adjacent markets, the healthcare market, you could think of some of the medical device manufacturers, is another very logical one for us to go into. We do have some other applications in different areas. By the way, we have a partner in oil and gas that has a specific application that we help them resell. So whether we're building the applications on our own or working with third parties to develop it and reselling, we are broadening beyond education today. But we're going to look to do even more of that.
So how are you going to protect your hardware, intellectual property? Right?
Yeah, so we actually have over 75 granted patents. And this goes to our heritage of our early days where we were deep in R&D and filing patents. And by the way, we have them at a system level and we have them also at a component level. But I would say the ones that are the biggest ones, there's a suite of patents that basically Anyone who has a virtual or augmented reality object projected into free space, I'm showing my hand here in front of my display, with interaction is going to run into our patents. So we've got really, really good IP coverage. And obviously all of those are out in the public domain. And in the vertical that we are currently in within education in the US, we have no competition. The superintendent of the school district I was talking to yesterday, who took a procurement to his school board last night for approval, which did get approved, was talking to me and saying, well, who else can I buy this from? And the answer is no one else has it. We do have some reseller partners in the US, but they're partners of ours, and we also sell direct in the US as well.
Okay. So I know you guys have revenue. I know you guys have clients. You have money coming in. How long do you guys? You don't have to give me a specific date, but like, how long do you guys think you guys will get off to that bell curve and start seeing actual profitability?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly something we're very focused on. To be really clear, very focused on, and I would hope next year is the year where we do that. As I mentioned, Q3 of last year, we were profitable. The first 2 quarters of this year, I can't talk about Q3, we had sequential growth in the business. You were asking all the questions about software. You will see continued margin improvement, and that was in the Q1, Q2. But I think the hope is it will be next year and the full year, not just specific quarters.
But that, to me, as an investor, that shows me growth. If you're getting a quarter, even if it's 1 quarter out of the year, you're seeing profitability, that is growth to me. What else comes to mind is, I understand maybe next year you might be profitable maybe for the full year, but do you think, and this isn't just what I'm reading, what I researched, the acquisitions y'all made, that took some cash out of you guys. I think a lot of investors, retail investors, needs to know that when you obviously buy other companies, that does take cash out of the company, that does, lower your cash flow for right now, but those cash flows will rebuild as those companies return ROI. Am I correct?
Correct. In fact, the bigger one of the two, Second Avenue, which we did in April timeframe, that team and that group is already, from a cash perspective, given new applications that we've already released. And by the way, I didn't talk about AI, but we have our own AI solution, and we're using AI within ZSpace to directionally, and this is in the public domain, within an experience. I'm going to give you an example, Kenny, and then I'll tie it back to your specific question about profitability. Directionally, it's in conjunction with OpenAI. We have the ability to create real-time virtual experiences or simulations that, based upon your aptitude and where you are unique to you. This is something really unique. Now, by the way, the reason I connect that back, the team that was part of the Second Avenue acquisition is the group that is building that out. And we actually released V1 of that product in about a month ago, early September, called Career Explorer. So I'm going to give you a little more detail just so you pick up on it. And I'm going to use a skilled trade because it's a fairly simple one. If you were somebody who is potentially interested in becoming a welder, you could actually use ZSpace and you will go simulate welding beads to determine how proficient a welder you may be. Now, you may be a really good welding candidate to go become a welder. Paul may be, much slower at that. But as we step you through Career Explorer, you're going to get moved along very quickly. And there's some assessment that goes into this as well. Paul's going to go at a little slower pace. That's the AI piece of this. And we started this over a year ago with a product called Career Coach. And again, the reason I say this is that product set, which is getting really good reviews in the market, is part of the push and additional applications that will get us to more, ultimately more software revenue, more margin, and ultimately to profitability.
That's my, like, when I hear that stuff, that's where opportunities for like upsells, retention, more licensing comes in, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's why I really, really like this company and what you're doing, because you're already doing it at a level where you're eventually you're going to be a spider web. You know what I mean? You're going to have multiple different revenues, multiple different avenues. And you know, I do have one more question, and this is like the retail investor question everybody wants me to ask. What should they be looking out for the next 2 quarters? You know, you don't have to tell us exactly, but for the next 2 quarters, what should all retail investors should be looking out for? You know, we want to hold the stock for long term. We want to follow it. We want to see what you're doing. I know you guys got a couple things coming out in 30 days, you know, end of the year. What should we look on next 2 quarters?
Yeah, I would say continue to keep your eyes on the margin, and where we end up on the margin side. Obviously, everybody's looking for growth. That one's kind of a given, but keep your eye on the margin, connected back to the software conversation we had. The other one, there will be, and this is not formally press released yet, but it is in the public domain. We have a new interaction stylus that is coming out that does away with one other specific piece of hardware. There's obviously even more gross margin pickup that's on the hardware side. And that product is very unique, and it's going to allow us to do some other things in the market. But I think it's going to be extremely well received. We're in production with it already, and we'll be shipping it, mass shipping, I think, within the next 30 to 45 days. It's already in our sales catalog, so it's
you already have a clientele.
We do, and that. But again, there'll be a press release drop somewhere in the not too distant future, specifically on that one. So I would say it's those two things. And people watch margins. I know I don't need to tell them to do that, but it's going to be tied back to the software piece, and then stay tuned on the newer product side.
You know what I mean? All right, man. Paul, I love it. Like I told you, the reason why I wanted to get you on the show, I love what you guys are doing. I think augmented reality, virtual reality is probably going to be the new gateway on how everybody learns, to be honest with you. It's hands-on is obviously the best way to learn. I personally think you guys have tremendous amount of growth. That's just my opinion. This tremendous amount of growth, because education is huge. You know what I mean? And we got to find different ways to learn. So,
yep. Thank you, Kenny.
You're
much
welcome.
Appreciated. Appreciate the time.
Everybody, I want to say thank you. Thank you to Paul. Thank you to ZSPC. Please check it out. Do your research. I think Paul has something here. I think his leadership and his strategy for at least for the next 2 years is really solid. And just from what they've been doing the last 19 years should really tell you that they have a great positioning here. So thank you for listening to Marathon Money. Peace.
Thank you.